live. Boom, almost perfect on the timing on that.
Not really. My watch shows 6:01. So
You're the never mind. I'm not gonna touch that right now. We'll touch that later. How is everybody doing tonight? Miguel Rodriguez here for the Bakersfield Gentlemen on this Monday before Thanksgiving. And
yes,
we got treats for you already because we have a very special guest today. I'm glad to have him back on. We
absolutely.
got Juan of Don Doroteo. I know you guys love it. And if you haven't heard of it yet, if you haven't tried it for yourself, you're missing out. And now is the time to ask some questions. So do me a favor for those who are joining us, share it, tag your buddies. They're going to thank you later and they're going to get you more gifts for Christmas. This is the way to really butter them up is by tuning them on to something absolutely fantastic. Brother, before I let them on, do you want to add anything? Is there anything we need to make sure we mention?
No, I think you covered it all.
They're pretty good there.
We are smoking the new cigars, the Salt of the Earth blends.
Yes.
I have the Pierda Viva, and you have the.
I don't want to. I'm going to let Juan pronounce it correctly so I don't screw it up as I
Okay.
usually do.
Before we get him on, of course, it has this beautiful. It's a almost like a triple band on these because you have the top band here that gives you all the information you want to know about the cigar. Then you have this beautiful,
Let me show a picture.
kind of like tissue paper ish wrapper, and then you have the Don Doroteo band on that, holding that on. So it's almost like a triple band on it. But I really like the look of it. And they are different, so you can tell them apart. Mine has the green tissue paper. Miguel has the it's white with gold on it. So that's the way you can tell them apart.
Yes.
And yeah, they look fantastic. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've already smoked them. We got to try them last time we saw them, so I already know what to expect from both of the cigars.
It's not just they look fantastic; they are fantastic. Right. That's an easy. Yeah.
But we'll get into them again, and you guys let us know what you think.
All right, you ready for this? All right, Juan, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Come on. Boom, perfect, brother. It is great to see you. How have you been?
What's up, fellas? Doing great, man. Doing great. Another day here in the farm, you
Fantastic.
know.
So for people that may not have caught our last interview when we had you on a while back, you actually came down to Bakersfield and did it with us here.
hmm
Can you give them a little bit of your backstory? What got you into tobacco and starting your own stuff, and what brought you to this?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, it was awesome seeing you guys in person and doing the pod together. I always enjoy that more like personal interaction than the Zoom, but this will do. Um, so as far as doing a recap on I guess my journey here into the industry. My family has been in farming in the Dominican Republic, farming tobacco since 1936. And that's strictly what my family did. So they were on both ends. But my maternal grandfather, Doroteo, who I named the company after, he stuck to it and he did it since the age of 16 up until he passed away in 2011. At the time, I was young and dumb. I was just, graduated or coming out of high school in the East Coast. Joined the military. Served 4 years in the Air Force, trying to figure out like what I wanted to do in my life. And afterwards, I went into tech just because it seemed like a natural progression in what I was already doing, and did that for a bit. And then, dude, long story short, just felt like I don't know, like that. All those jobs, I call them like golden handcuffs. You go work in Silicon Valley, where that's where I was for a bit, for a few years, and you think like, oh, I'm gonna work, for some tech company and make, a shit ton of money, and it's gonna be great, and all these stupid perks and whatnot. And then it's soul sucking, dude. So after a couple years of that, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be doing this the rest of my life. And I remembered that I always wanted to start a business in the Dominican Republic. I wasn't sure of what at the time, but around the pandemic, I'd say like early pandemic, 2020, I started just smoking cigars in my deck, and I started thinking about my grandfather, Doroteo, and I started thinking about what it would potentially take to take on his legacy. Like pretty much rekindle the same relationship he had with the factory in the Dominican Republic, La Aurora, the oldest factory there, and and what it would take to make a cigar and commemorate his legacy. And I just, dude, it just started putting words on paper and putting that business plan together. And the universe has a way of responding to the things you want. A year
I
later,
like
I
that.
found myself in Puerto Rico, and I was smoking cigars with some of my boys in the beachfront right there, and one of them was asking me a lot of questions about cigars, asking me a lot of questions about my family in the Dominican Republic. Turns out this guy was, and you guys met him, Brandon, who is now the co-founder of Don Doroteo. He he had been to Cuba, he had been to Dominican and all over, and he was really, really keen on getting into the industry. But if this culture is tight knit, and it's like, you need to have a way in. If you don't have the way in, it's hard to maneuver to get business done. He doesn't even know
Sure.
Spanish for that sake. So in Kamai, and I tell him like my family story. He's like, "Hey, has your family been in tobacco at all?" I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you." And then next thing you know, we're like, I have a partner, someone who's gonna, grow with me and build this monster with me. So we get to it, and then this land right here that you see behind me, that's our first harvest from 2022. So 9 months after that conversation in Puerto Rico, we had a harvest. 9 months later,
Wow.
so we were messing around. We got straight to it. Essentially, I went to the Dominican Republic. I break bread with the factory owners and the master blender. I tell them, hey, this is my family legacy. I want to continue it. And they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And I tell them like I want to commemorate what my grandfather was doing by honoring him with a cigar and calling it El Legado, which is, I know you guys have smoked plenty of times and love,
Oh yeah.
which translates to the legacy, as you know. And then the second part was very important to me, was doing this here, making sure that we continue his true legacy, which is farming tobacco. So, and here we are.
That's fantastic. Okay, guys. So that's a little bit of background for you guys. I might have missed it last time. Um, but as far as the farm goes that you guys have, what can you tell people that goes into um from the seed to getting this on the shelves? I
Oh,
mean, we know it's a labor intensive process. Um,
Hmm.
how involved are you with that, and what have you learned since you've been on this journey?
Yeah, when they say it's a labor of love, they're not kidding, dude. It's nuts, man. So we have a small team. So the person that's in charge of daily operations in the Dominican Republic is my cousin Aaron Fernandez, who you guys also met at PCA. I've break bread with him a couple times. He was in the Air Force with me, and during the pandemic, he went to Dominican Republic. He decided to stay there, so I just told him, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about starting the business and honoring our grandfather, and would you like to be a part of it?" And he was like, "Heck yeah, dude! Like, sign me up." So he and it's cool because I've seen him grow into that role. The same way he's seen me grow into this role here in the States. So in the States, I run operations here for the most part. I run pretty much everything from A to Z, from sales to like the new blends that we're gonna release into the market, any campaigns we're working on. And then in Dominican Republic, my cousin is in charge of daily operations on the farm. He's in charge of quality control at the factory. So anytime we have a new blend that's going to be processed, rolled, banded, boxed, you name it, he's there. And I tell him, you have to be there, make sure the quality's there, so that when you guys on your end are taking the sleeve off, taking the band off, opening the box, like it's a fluid experience, and as far as my involvement, I'm not. I don't touch the plants every day. I have folks in place for that. I'm a big believer of knowing your strengths and then putting people in place to help you with your weaknesses. And for me,
Yes.
I know my
Okay.
strengths are really in what I'm doing right now, kind of like guiding the ship and doing the daily operations. Um, as far as like boots on the ground on a daily day to day, I have a very dedicated small team of folks that have been in the Dominican Republic doing this for nearly 30 years. And then I also have the help from La Aurora. La Aurora actually provided an agronomist who came in, and he took my cousin under his wing. And every single day it was like, like a boot camp for my cousin. He was essentially like dealing with all the craziness, because the thing with this region of the world, in the Caribbean, they get extreme weather. you'll either get extreme heat and then there's a drought forever, or you'll get inundated with water and the plants get oversaturated, and then that could that could develop into mold or whatever the case, or
Yeah.
a flood, you name it. So it's definitely been trial and error, but luckily we've had two successful harvests already, and now we're actually in the third season now. We just started the third season last week. So
That's beautiful right there.
You talk about the harvest. Is there a particular kind of tobacco that you guys grow, or are you trying new breeds of tobacco, or getting seeds from somewhere else and planting, or how does that go?
Yeah. So I like to experiment. So we've actually done two completely different harvests. So the first one was Carbonel, which is indigenous to the region of the Dominican Republic. That specific part of the Dominican Republic, it grows really well. So you'll see right behind me, when you're there in person, dude, it's like 6 feet tall and it's beautiful. It's huge, and it's just like it's a world of tobacco. And it's from that region, so it grows easy. And I think that was the best way to kind of get our footing, so that my cousin could kind of get an idea of how things run, obviously with some supervision from folks that have been doing it forever. And then the second time around, we actually decided to throw a little curveball at my cousin. I wanted to grow a Criollo 98. So as you know, it's in the blends that you're smoking right now. It's in the filler.
Yeah.
So it's important to me that we actually start incorporating strains of tobacco that are actually in our blends. So we decided to grow that the last season. But obviously it was all trial and error again. So what we learned the second season is, okay, this is a seed that is not indigenous to not only Dominican Republic, but that region in particular. It's from Cuba, Cuban seeds. So the growing process was slightly different. The plants required a different amounts of water, sunlight, you name it. So it was a day-to-day operation. But luckily, we actually had a successful harvest there too, and we actually still have that. That whole harvest is in the farm still. It's actually in the curing barn. I don't know if you can see it behind me. It's there somewhere. But we keep it there for folks when they go visit the farm, so they could see it, they could touch the plants, just so they could see the different plant life cycle. What do you call it? It's like my English is escaping me. But anyways, yeah. So as far as where we get the seeds and all that stuff, we work with a greenhouse. It's like 2 hours away from the farm. It's where most of all the seeds come from in the whole country. So a lot of the big the big manufacturers, you name it, all the boutique ones, they all go to the same similar places. So yeah.
I'm really happy you brought up the point of the different needs of each plant, because when not to say anything bad about America, I love us here, all right, we're number one still, but as a lot of us picture farming in the U.S. nowadays is just factory farming. It's a huge plantations of corn or wheat, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. Obviously, a lot of work. But when you picture it in your mind, you're thinking of, okay, all the needs of this crop is the same. It's the same amount of water, same amount of fertilizer, same amount of pesticides if necessary, whatever have you. It's on a massive scale like that. You can't take that kind of thought and think, okay, just throw that onto tobacco or onto wine grapes, maybe to a lesser extent like barley or wheat for whiskeys and beers. It's not as plant specific, but just as you spoke of right now, just trying to experiment and trying to cultivate the best crop you can. The difficulty, and you just said it in a few sentences, and there's so much that goes into those few sentences of work and the passion that had to go into it, make that happen. And I'm really glad you pointed out that, there is very specific needs of all of this crop to make it as delicious as it is right now in my hand. As you said, it's here, it's in the filler, and it's delicious, absolutely phenomenal. So I am glad you guys are experimenting.
Yeah, it's very labor intensive, man. It's crazy. One thing I will note though, our cigars, the Salts of the Earth, don't have any of our tobacco yet, because again, we only started harvesting in 22.
Yeah.
So the tobaccos are in those cigars. Yes, they're all 7 years. So to go back to what you were asking earlier about the whole cycle, so we get the transplants from the greenhouse. So I'll put in an order. I'll say I need this many plants. Typically, we do 34,000 plants or so in the farm.
Wow.
And then I'll put in an order and I'll say, hey, I need it by this date. So typically, I like to get them by mid-November. That's like the sweet spot because then around February, mid-February, we get a harvest, and it's just it's beautiful. It'll look just like this here.
Now, real
And
quick,
so
you
yeah,
said you get the plants. Is that kind
transplant.
of cutting it close? Because I know a lot of the workers down there, they take off a lot of December. So does that give them enough time to do what they have to
They
do?
do. They do, but
Uh,
it's fine. I learned a lot about just efficiency in general. That's what been one of my biggest goals since we started this whole thing. Dude, the first year it was like a circus. We've had so many people on that farm. It was ridiculous, bro. The number of employees we had there, and then so like after that, I was like, okay, I know this is like we're just starting off things. There's a lot of unknowns, so that's just part of the process. But we worked really hard on just creating efficiencies as much as possible. And as it pertains to the farm, we have someone that's very dedicated and loyal. And again, he's been doing it for about 27, 28 years. So, and he lives really close. So he'll tell me, like, dude, even throughout the holidays, like, no worries, bro. I'll go eat turkey with my family, then I'll go check on the farm real quick. Because the thing about the plants is like, man, they don't care about holidays or weekends. You know,
right.
if you get a huge flood on a Saturday, it doesn't matter if it's the weekend. The plants are gonna need some attention, or else you're gonna lose your crop. Simple as that.
Right.
So, mhm.
Uh, Now you said it was like you order 34,000 at a time.
Yeah, yep.
What kind of
So,
acreage are you looking at?
20 acres, 20.
Oh
Yep.
wow, okay, wow,
Yeah.
that's huge. Okay,
Um, it's funny because it's funny you say huge because for folks in the industry, even my dad told me this. He's like, "You're gonna start with 20 acres." He's like, "You need more land." I was like, "Thanks, Dad." Give me some acres
right.
then, dude. Come on, give them over. I'm happy to take them. Um,
Now, is there room
so
around you guys to expand if you wanted to?
there is. So that's actually one of the things that I've been having my eye on, and I'm talking to the owners of those parcels because I'm trying to kind of keep a close eye on it. It's a long term goal. I don't want to grow, too fast, more than we can chew. But I'm definitely have that in my sights. I know you guys have been seeing some of the posts I've been making lately on IG. So we've been doing the drone shots, doing the weekly updates on the
Mm,
construction and all the stuff we're doing there. So that's all in preparation for this junior venture, if you will. It's a side company that we created in partnership with a fly fishing company out of Puerto Rico. Some of our buds out there, they moved there from the United States, and they started a fly fishing company. Is essentially they take folks out in boats or yachts, and they take them on some clear water, exotic fly fishing experiences, which friggin' dope. And one thing I know that goes hand in hand with that is cigars. So we
oh
partnered
yeah,
up with them.
Perfect.
We created a company with them, and essentially it's called Salt of the Earth, Distinctive Adventures. So essentially, you'll either fly into Dominican Republic and experience the farm, and I'll host a whole event there. You essentially get a dinner, you get live music. My family will be there. You'll get actually to meet the hands that been working on these fields for many years, decades. My mom being one of them. And then you'll experience kind of like here in California we have Napa Valley. So I'm trying to bring that
hmm
vibe to the tobacco fields. So for me, it's all about experiences, right? So you'll sit there and then you'll be in front of all the beautiful plants, just like the ones you see behind me, 6 foot tall, just staring at you, and you're just you're pairing the cigar with a fine rum or a mama juana, and we cook Kahlua pork right there. We call it pernil in the Caribbean. Um, we cook it right there on the farm, and then my cousin, who's a chef in the Dominican Republic, he provides all the sides. So it's a real it's a labor of love, man. Not only on the tobacco side, but like just providing that experience for folks.
And is that something that's happening already, or is that still something you guys are working on to do in the future?
That's something that we're actively doing now. So just tomorrow we're going to have meetings about as a team as far as like how we're going to present this at PCA. So for the attendees at PCA, they'll get a little insight, a little early access to do some of the tours there. So they'll be able to go to Puerto Rico, fly fish over there in clear waters, and then hop over on a little plane, come over to Dominican, and experience the farm, the factory, all that.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
man.
that sounds incredible. That'd be a lot of fun.
I love that. And see, honestly, again, I love California too. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather go there than Napa. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a wine guy. I need to get fly fishing and cigars. That sounds like a wonderful. Like you said, the combination is perfect.
Yeah,
That's just genius right there.
Yeah, dude. It's all about experience, man. That's why I get where you're coming from as far as the wine. I like the wine, but what I loved about going to the valley and going to those wineries is just you think about it for a second. You're sitting there and you're like, this is a farm. It's a grape farm, but it's grandiose and it's like beautiful and there's thought, intention behind every piece of real estate, on the property.
mm-hmm.
There's thought behind it, and it transcends over into the experience for the folks that go there. So it just makes the wine. I feel like it makes it taste better when you're sitting there and you're just like, oh crap, this is dope. So I love kind of bringing that vibe and that experience. You guys have seen it at the shows, the trade shows. I do the best I can at the biggest strips there, but we'll bring the machete, the andullo, and I'm cutting it up for you right there, just how they do here on the fields. But now this is the next step, bringing people to the field and then showing them the crop, showing them the factory, experiencing the cigar there on the property with some drink, live music. Nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I think you're absolutely right too. That the experience and the setting you're in just improves your senses in a way. I couldn't fully describe it. I don't know if there's a word for that, but just the ambiance of the moment, it absolutely just heightens everything to an 11. And I'm looking forward to the day I can get over there. I can smoke a Don Doroteo while on the farm. Cannot wait for that.
Yeah, man.
So tell us about what we're smoking right now. You guys did a fantastic presentation over at PCA. I love the whole booth setup. It was awesome. But tell people that haven't had a chance yet to smoke this cigar, what it is that we're smoking.
So this blend is very special to us because, as you guys know, we launched with the El Legado, a 14-year-old blend, meaning it was rolled in 2008, launched in 2022. So 14 years just sitting in the aging room. And a lot of folks are like, well, why did La Aurora never use that blend? How come they never used that tobacco? They're a huge operation, right? They have a huge factory. They've been around since the early 1900s, right? So their specific target demographic needs a lot more tobacco. This is a limited batch of well-aged tobacco. So there's not space in their portfolio for that. So they leave it there for what they call friends and family. So anyone that's connected to La Aurora, that's been around, has access to it. So that's where we came in. We purchased that whole blend, and we named it El Legado. And I think it's only right. It's only fitting. Like if you're gonna come out the gate swinging. So we launch at PCA 22 with El Legado 14-year-old stick. Thankfully, we got rated 95, which it's an amazing stick. So, but the thing is, I couldn't take credit for that because we didn't blend it, right? So, Salt of the Earth is actually very special to me because it's our first core blends that we actually like touched and saw from A to Z. We worked hand in hand with the master blender Manuel Noah, who's a genius at what he does, and he is really an artist at putting blends together. And he's taken me essentially under his wing and taught me the ropes. I was pretty much getting down to the last three blends. The third didn't make the cut, as you see, because we only launched two. So these two here, the only difference is going to be the wrapper. One of them is going to have a Corojo Dominicano. The other one's going to have the Cameroon seed from Ecuador. And then the binder, both of them is going to be the same. It's going to be Nicaragua. And then the same thing for the filler. So one thing I will know that is probably the most important for me with these blends is that they incorporate a Dominican tradition. It's andullo tabaco. It's in the filler, and it's been around for over 500 years. The Taino natives of the islands of Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, they used to smoke this in
Mhm.
pipe tobacco. So it's essentially pipe tobacco, or they used to chew it as well. And I don't know if you guys got to see, but there were some folks. We brought the andullo to the show in July,
Yeah.
and we had folks dipping it, and we have folks smoking the pipe. Like, oh, I smoke pipe every day. I'm like, all right, here, try it. I have some pipes here. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Dude, they were sitting on the couch. They were just like dozing off. But it's a very so it's a complex tobacco. It's very strong. It's sweet, and you got to be careful not to put too much of it. And there hasn't been too many blends on the market. There's been some folks that have tried, but there haven't been too many blends in the market that have got it just right. So I think the
Mm.
combination of the percentage of the andullo that we use in conjunction with the rest of the filler, the binder, and the specific wrappers we use, I think personally, obviously, I'm a little biased. They were the perfect mix for Salt of the Earth. So
I don't think you're being biased at all because, like you said, it's a very special tobacco. It's a very hardy, uh, leaf to work with, and you've done an amazing
mhm.
job with it on both blends. I think the
Thank
wrappers
you.
complement it very well.
Hmm.
Phenomenal stuff, guys. I'm not just saying that. Definitely want to try them for yourselves. And I apologize. I'm getting us a little off topic, but I want to go back to Eduardo's question before we miss it. Back to the trips real quick. Because again, it sounds like an amazing trip, and
Mhm.
he was wondering how much a trip like that might cost. Um, gotta
Yeah,
make sure we get that out there.
yeah. I'm trying to polish that up a bit. That's honestly one of the hardest parts because I'm trying to make it so that pretty much anyone could do it. I want to share my passion and my family legacy with as many people as possible. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
open it up to everybody. And the tricky part is like, okay, how do we make it worth our while with time? Because there's a lot of coordination you wouldn't imagine, right? Cost, obviously, upfront cost for us. But then I want to make it so it's like a fully immersive experience, and I want folks essentially to feel you know, like they could just let go. So I know for firsthand, like I've been going to Dominican Republic since I was a baby. I was born in New York City, but I've been going there since literally like, my first stamp on my passport was like 5 months. Going to DR. I'm like, really, mom? You couldn't wait a year.
yeah.
So I've been going there my whole life. So for me, I don't even think about it twice. Like, is it safe? Of course it's safe. I'll go anywhere there. But I know for some folks that never been there, going to Dominican or Puerto Rico, Cuba, whatever, it feels like, oh. So I'm making it as immersive as possible. From the moment you arrive at the airport, it's actually my cousin who I served in the Air Force with. He's going to pick you up from the airport along with another
Oh,
driver. They'll pick you up in a Dondi designated vehicle, and they'll take you straight to your Airbnb that we partnered with. It's 15 minutes away from the factory, 15 minutes away from the farm. It's smack center of Santiago. So if you don't know, Santiago is the second largest city in the Dominican Republic, and it's awesome. Like if you're a tourist and there's so many awesome restaurants around there. The monument, as you know, and a lot of factories because Tamboril, where all the local factories are, right? It's right there. So we're making it as immersive as possible. I've been working on this for over a year and a half, and I'm doing my best to bring costs down as much as possible for the consumer. So that way, folks go and they can leave with like more than they gave, if that makes sense.
oh,
Sure.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's the logistics alone. I can only imagine. Like, not even just saying trying to get the price down, but just to price it out at all. I can only imagine how much work you guys are putting into it. And it
Yeah.
sounds like, for as incredible as it is, it deserves a good price point. And the fact you guys are trying to make it for everyone to enjoy is also
Hmm.
impressive in itself, right there. So I cannot
Hmm.
wait to. I want to beat Eduardo there though, because he usually beats me to places. So I gotta beat him somewhere first. I'm gonna fly fish before he does. I'm counting it.
We're gonna have to bring you out and call it work. You're doing media.
Oh man, yeah. I'm gonna
There
start
you go.
using that excuse for everything. Yeah, it's media. Media.
Yeah,
I'm just
dude.
going there for it's research. It's research. Totally.
The IRS is gonna
Oh,
call you like, tell me again how this is work.
oh, you know what? Just take an IRS agent down there, and they'll see how much work it is. They'll realize, and then
It's a lot of
no
work,
more
dude.
bother ever again. It's I can only imagine how much the behind the scenes is mind boggling. It really is, and the fact that you guys have done such an amazing job, and it feels like not that much time. Obviously, it's got to feel like much longer for you guys, but to see it come together as it is, not just the trip wise, but the cigars,
Hmm.
the everything
Bro,
that you've been doing,
it's only
it's
been
incredible.
2 years and some change, like 2 years and 3 months, something like that. We started 2021. It was August, I want to say, when we first hit the shovel, hit the ground, and we started, digging up trenches, and you know, it's been wild. But the crazy thing is that we did that while also creating cigar blends. I think the key there was we didn't get sidetracked by what everyone else is doing, because a lot of folks told me like, "Hey, you need to launch five different blends immediately. You need to have a Connecticut, a Maduro." I'm like, bro, that's what everyone does. I don't want to do what everyone else does. Like, I'm doing this, like, it really comes from passion, man, and from love. Like, so we were like, let's start with one. I want to really, show folks who we are, make a name for Don D. And I think the 14-year-old stick Legado was like the best way to do it. And then from there, it was like, okay, you got our attention. This is like the general feedback I got at PCA in 22 and 23. Like, you got our attention. All right, what's next? Are you a one hit wonder? Are you going to flop because this technically isn't a blend that you put together? Or are you going to come back, and hit another grand slam with a core line? So, yeah, I was kind of like on pins and needles, because, like, obviously for us, we were like, oh, these blends are amazing. Like, I think we did it, and then when we go to PCA, dude, I was like, oh shit, I wonder what like the reception is gonna be. But when I had folks come back and they're like, dude, some people even told me they liked it more than the Legado, and I was like, damn, dog, like, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So as we're smoking this, the cigar is fantastic, and the presentation matches how good the cigar is. How long did that take you to come up with? Because it's absolutely stunning from the look of it, and there's a lot of people that will go and
mhm.
buy a new cigar, based on how it looks in the box. Like, oh, this looks really pretty. Let me try this out. Never heard of it. How
Mhm.
how much trial and error went into the actual making of that presentation?
That's a good question. There a lot. That's a short answer. So, like, right now, we're working on blend. So, like, I'll put it to you this way: Jeff Moss, who is the creative director, you guys know Jeff Moss. This dude is
Yep.
like the sleeper goat, I call him, because he's like on the DL. But this guy is a genius in the industry. He's been working in the industry for nearly, I want to say, going on 30 years or something. There's a brand in particular that he worked with for 13 years straight, and he helped them kind of put him on the map from a visual standpoint and made him stand out. And thankfully, he was graceful enough. I took him to the farm in 22. He saw this harvest that we did in 9 months, and he's like, "You guys are serious." And he was like, he just felt the love and the passion. And he's like, "I'm in. Let's do this." So, that was a huge, huge win for us. So, like, I've seen his process, and it's nuts, dude. The time he takes, the dedication. He kind of goes in his head, and he'll show me his files on his computer, and it's insane. Like, the process that he takes to come up with the logos, the color waves, to tell the story. So essentially, I'm a natural storyteller myself. I like to think as well. I love to write. So I pretty much carved out all of my grandfather's life, and each milestone is incorporated into specific blends. So, like, El Legado, which translates to the legacy, you'll see there's a 1936 in the band, and that's commemorating when he first started growing tobacco at the age of 16 and selling it to La Aurora. The next release, which is El Alcalde, which translates to the mayor, is commemorating when he was mayor of his town between 1969 to 1971. That's going to be released in PCA. And by the way, that's a 15-year-old stick. So,
Wow. Now,
yeah.
will that fall under the Salt of the Earth banner as a core line, or is
No.
that something different?
So far we have two different lines. We have the legacy line. That's where El Legado. That's going to be all the H cigars, all the exclusive batches.
Okay.
That's the
All
Legado,
browns.
El Alcalde, and another one which I'll get to in a second. And then we have the second line, which is Salt of the Earth. That's our core line. And right now we're working on a separate core line. It's going to be like an ultra premium core line. It's going to be really special. That's set to release in 2025. And then under the legacy line, which so far we have the 14-year, the 15-year, we're going to have a 21-year-old cigar that's going to be released in
Wow.
2026. and we started designs already right now. We've been working on it for the last few months. So that's how long it takes. Like we really put a lot of or like a lot of time, a lot of effort into making sure that it's absolutely perfect, and more importantly, it does the cigar its justice. So if the salt of the earth is amazing, great, but it should have the presentation that matches that, you know. So I'm all about like I said, I'm all about experiences. So even like when you walk in a humidor, you see the cigar. From the moment you see it, you should be like, man, this is beautiful, you know. And then same thing when you go smoke it, you know, construction, flavor, everything. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
a lot of effort goes into those bands.
Hmm.
Well, yeah.
Now, oh, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. I think a lot of guys out there, including myself, I try not to, but I do. I judge a book by its cover from time to time. You know, I see something in the humidor or just in general, like you know what, I like that. It's like, oh god, what was that whiskey we found here in town? As Writer's
Writer's
Tears,
tears.
Writer's Tears, and
Mm,
I like to write too. I'm like, I need that because that's exactly what I'm gonna drink when I'm writing from now on.
nice.
Luckily, I liked it a lot. It was good stuff,
So,
and I
so
can
you've been writing a
honestly
lot.
tell like it keeps you writing. I might not be good after like the fifth or sixth shot, but it's still writing.
Yeah, right on.
I can tell when guys check this out in their lounge, their local, they're gonna pick it up. They're gonna enjoy it, and that's the
Right.
wonderful thing too. Because it's not like you said, it's not just a beautiful package; it's a quality, wonderful product. And I think that doesn't just fall into cigars or luxury items, but across the board. I think everyone can take a little advice right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, packaging. Packaging
Absolutely.
is important. Another piece that I'm working on right now, again, I was actually talking to my partners about this today, is creating a quicker delivery time. So, Salt of the Earth, we got everything done on our end, and then as it goes in this industry, there's some parts that just move slow, and it kills me, dude, because I like to go fast. So, getting the boxes done for Salt of the Earth for all those boxes we needed, thousands of boxes. It took so long. So this year, so we're already working on getting that done early, so that when we go to PCA next year in March, if someone puts in an order for the new Alcalde, the 15-year-old legacy line, they'll be able to receive it by the end of the show. So immediately it'll be
Wow.
sent to the facilities, because it's like, again, going back to the end consumer experience, like it's annoying when you order something, you're waiting for it, you're excited for it, and then it takes forever to get there, right? So I think, like, especially when
Yeah.
you leave PCA, you could continue, like, you already got the momentum and all that high from Vegas. You get home and boom, there's a package waiting for you straight from the show. Like that's gonna hit different.
Yeah, because like you said, PCA, you go, you taste the new stuff, and it's like, okay, well, they'll be delivered, sometime in the fall to beginning of winter. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So then you get the stuff at the shop. Like I know we did a couple times over at Cigars and More. Oh yeah, I forgot we ordered this. That's right. Let's try it
Yep.
again. So that
Right.
have been able to have it that soon right after is absolutely fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
I did want to get back. Oh man, you made me lose my train of thought when you said something.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Apologize.
dang it. Oh, I lost it. I had it. I had a question. And I lost it. Damn.
It'll come
I'll
back.
go back to something else. I'm gonna go back to a little bit of off topic a little bit. We talked about a movie that you were part of though. Last time you were here. I don't know if we could talk about that on camera or that off camera. The
Uh,
oh
you talking about the brand placement?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's still very much a thing. We can't I can't talk about it, but I'll talk about what we can discuss. So my partner, he is a movie producer. Great coincidence, right? So I've been pretty much in his ear, like, hey, dude, got any movies coming out? And he'll tell me, like, hey, here's a script I'm working on, or here's a movie. He literally sent me a movie. It was like 6 weeks ago, and he told me, like, hey, go through the movie and find places where you want to put either the cigar, the logo. And I was like, this is badass, dude. This is so badass. And it's like, it's well-known actors, right? It's an action flick. So I was able to kind of go through it, and I'm like, I'm like going through the scenes, pausing, going, looking at, specific brand placement locations, and considering, like, oh, is this the villain, the protagonist, like all these different factors. But yeah, it's super cool, man, to be able to do that, not only from a marketing standpoint, but just in general. Like it's kind of cool behind the scenes on the whole movie side of things. But
That's
the one
cool.
in particular that I shared with you back then, that one is set to release in 24, from what I'm hearing. I think because of the
Oh,
strikes that were been going on, the writer strikes, it kind of
yeah,
delayed a lot of things, which is crazy
yeah.
to see how that works behind the scenes. But yeah, it's exciting, man. From a marketing standpoint, like I couldn't ask for anything better than that, brand placement wise.
Hmm.
Like we have
Hmm.
scenes where there's a guy lighting a cigar and it'll be a Don D, or there's a very important scene in the movie, like either the climax or resolution, and the guy turns and you'll see Salt of the Earth, Don Doroteo. Like
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So
that'll be cool to be able to see and actually recognize it, because a lot of times people are like, "What is that guy smoking?" Or they have people winning championships and, "Oh, what are they smoking? Can't see the band, can't see the band." Or
right,
The Godfather, when they're all sitting around the table, all the cigars they had no bands. Same thing in Tombstone, none of them had bands. To be able to sit there, they're
right.
like, "Hey, I know that cigar. That'll be awesome." And
Yeah,
then we had a
that's another.
question here.
Oh, go ahead.
Good.
No, I was gonna
No,
say
go
the
ahead, finish saying.
frustrating one of the frustrating things I noticed I learned from the whole movie piece is um, you go in with intentions of like it's important for you to have brand recognition, logo placement, all that stuff, and you'll have guys like actors that like you could tell have never put a cigar in their mouth, and you get to the point where you're like, we're gonna have to cut that scene because I don't like the way he's smoking my cigar. What's wrong? He's like, he's smoking it backwards.
Oh, that's
So yeah, I've seen some funny stuff already. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool to see. Like, you see these dudes that are like action stars and they're like badasses. They do all these cool scenes and they don't even know how to light a cigar. I'm like, come on, bro.
Oh
So,
man, that's horrible.
you need a
Uh,
course in that.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, like
man.
they have the guy that's there to like supervise all the weapons on scene. You'd have a guy on there
exactly.
to monitor all cigars on scene. Make sure they're doing it right.
Yeah,
Like, are you authorized to use that cigar? But we do have a
exactly.
question here from Richard. Uh, how do you battle bugs and other pests on the plants?
Hmm. Ooh.
Um, so we try to keep use kind of natural products. So the most natural pesticide is tobacco. So if you take that main vein out of the plant, which I don't know, a lot of folks, I feel like this is not really common knowledge, but um, for those of you that don't know, we don't use the main vein in the tobacco that we use for cigars. It is where most of the vast majority of the nicotine is concentrated,
Mm-hmm.
and if it actually could hurt you, could kill you if you consume that. So we actually use that and we mix it in a solution with water, and you will spray that on the plants for bugs and whatnot. Like that's how strong it is. Like you could use it as a natural pesticide because you got to
Mm-hmm.
think about it. Like the one thing that's really tricky about tobacco, another piece that maybe people just don't think about because they're not involved in the process, is just consume it. You know, you don't wash tobacco. Well, you know what I mean? Like when the plants are ready for harvest, you harvest them, you string them, you put them in the barn, you rotate them, for the humidity purposes, so you could dry them out completely. But once they're dry, you take them to the factory, you process them, or you age them. And that's it. There's no cleaning off whatever. So it's a very delicate process. You cannot like pesticides and all that aside. Even things like making sure that the employees' uniforms are not contaminated with anything else. So like, some folks sometimes get lazy and they'll like be doing something at home. Like let's say you're painting your house at home and then, oh, I got my shift now, I'm gonna go to work. And you got paint on your clothes. This didn't happen to us,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just giving an example. Like I try to pay close attention to those type of things because you just don't want to have an instance where like you dedicate so much resources, time, money, energy into like growing a crop, and then you have to throw some away because somebody accidentally brushed against it with something else and contaminated it. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I never hadn't even thought of that. So that's probably another big part of your quality control
yeah,
manager's
that's a
job
daily
right there.
thing.
I mean, that, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's a
never
daily
hadn't
thing on
even.
the farm. Yeah, here's another one. Another one. It's not really about contaminating the plants. It's more so protection for the field workers, for the employees. I noticed it's not common in the Dominican Republic for folks to wear PPE. So A lot of times when they're working with these natural pesticides and stuff, you know, they'll want to just wear like flip flops and tank tops, and folks think you're not providing uniforms. I'm like, it got to the point where I started telling my cousin, like, send him home, send him home, go put on your uniform, go get your, and we have PPE on the property. So we have a tool shed, and in there they have all the equipment they need to protect their skin and all the pores, everything, right, and breathing. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, it's too hot. I'm like, well, dude, you gotta wear it or you gotta get off the field, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk you getting sick, and you got a family at home that depends on you. So a lot of
No,
things that
that's
go into
very
it, bro.
true. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I have a kind of an off question here. As far as the workers go, do you allow them like any certain number of cigars per day that they're allowed to smoke while they're working?
We don't. The funny thing is, we don't have the field workers don't touch the cigars. They touch the tobacco. So like, and I do send them cigars. Though. What I'll do is I'll send them just like you're smoking them right now. I'll send them the end product, so they can experience the
Okay.
whole thing too. So we'll
Nice.
send them like that in bundles. But the folks that work on the field, they work on the field. That's it. So it's kind of siloed. The folks that work
Hmm.
here, and so on and so forth, because they're specialists. Like they're not like jacks of all trades. They're dedicated 27, 28 years. The lead guy, at least, Martin is his name. Martin dedicated 28 years to growing tobacco. That's what he does. He doesn't. He couldn't roll one if you asked him. If his life depended on it, but he could grow some good tobacco, maintain it, harvest it, and age it. So, and the same goes for the other folks too.
And as far as that goes, them being specialists, I don't know if you can touch on this. You said that your family's always done it in the Dominican. Are there
Yeah.
any major differences between the way like the Dominican does it, the way Nicaragua does it, the way Cuba does it,
Oh yeah.
Honduras, all these
Absolutely.
different countries
Yeah, dude.
that.
Yeah, man. I mean, think about it like put science aside. Just think about it from like a logical standpoint. You have different countries aside from nationality. What else do you have that's different? Uh, all the natural
Nothing, yeah.
elements, right? The
Yeah.
geographic elevation, the actual location. So, like, even in the Dominican, this is how intricate it gets. Like in the Dominican Republic, there are certain seeds that are obviously are indigenous to the country. If I grow a specific seed that's not adherent to the harshness or the minerals in the water in my location, in my region, they won't grow as beautiful. They won't blossom the same.
Hmm.
So like it's a very meticulous process. There's a lot of scientific analysis that goes behind it. So we test the soil. We have folks come on the fields, and they'll test the soils in different parts of the plot.
Hmm.
They'll gather samples, take it back to the lab. They'll run tests on it, and then they'll come back and tell me. And then they'll do it to the water too, because we have a natural water source. So we have a natural water well that we were fortunate to dig up in the property. So they'll tell me like what kind of minerals are in the water, pH levels, all that stuff. They'll tell me exactly what's in the soil, and if we're trying to grow XYZ crop, exactly how much whatever mineral we're gonna have to add or remove from the water as it's coming out.
Hmm.
All
Oh
that kind of
wow.
stuff. Hmm.
Okay. So
Oh,
as far as the tobacco you guys aren't growing right now, is there anything that you want to work with that you see as a future project for you guys?
Yeah. So the one we're growing this year is actually also in the salt. It's in the salt of the earth. It's the Corojo Dominicano. So it's Corojo Dominicano 2004. It's called.
Okay.
And but again, so the salts of the earth had like Miguel said, it has 7-year-old tobaccos. So what we're gonna do is we'll harvest it in 24 next year. We'll harvest it around February through March, and then we'll age it in the curing barn for a couple weeks. Once it's fully dried and cured, then we'll sell it to La Aurora. La Aurora will take it into their aging room and process it, and they will age it for years. Because I mean, it's not just marketing. We got to stay true to that. So that means every year, every new batch that we make of salt, it has to incorporate the 7-year-old tobacco, or else we got to remove that from the band. you
Hmm.
know. So
Yeah.
that is impressive right there.
Now,
But
have you come across yet where you're aging it for the 7 years, but you come to year 4 and you like it, Would you use it as something else?
Um, I don't. If I had to like guess right now, I would say no, and the reason
Okay.
is because um, I'm trying to kind of recreate ourselves every single time we make a new blend, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So a good example is um, we did the legacy piece, right, which obviously we didn't blend, but that whole flavor profile, we kind of went away from it. We went like took a big risk with Salt of the Earth, but like really stayed true to what we thought we should do. And so
Yeah.
for the next couple batches that we're working on, like I said, we're working on a different core line right now. We're working on two different blends in that core line as well. Very different from Salt of the Earth. Very different. Not only in presentation, but also more importantly in the flavor profile, the types of tobaccos that are used in it, the aging, all of that. So like we're definitely taking the road of hard knocks, so to speak, because we're not making it easier on ourselves. If we wanted to, we'd be like, hey man, people really like salt. We should just put a San Andreas wrapper on it and make it the third salt of the earth. That's an easy win right there. But instead of doing that and having the brand take a hit, because when you're lazy, it shows, right? You could tell. Instead of doing that, I'd rather try to recreate something special. And that those two blends that I'm talking about, those are set to if everything continues as planned, it's going to be released in 2025. So in 2025 PCA, we should release those. Yeah, that would be really exciting.
Okay.
Well, that would be great for what do you call it?
New
Where?
Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect way to kick off the new
Right?
location right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Love
that'd be
that.
cool.
Now, and going back to these guys for a second, there are 5 sizes to this, and the largest one, as far as ring gauge goes, is at that 54. Is that personal choice? Did you guys decide together, like, we don't want anything too large as far as ring gauge goes, or
Yeah.
is there plans to maybe go a little bigger on a later date?
For me, it's all about consistency and just knowing what to expect when you're getting a product. So the same reason why like folks are like, oh, why is McDonald's so successful, right? And it's like they got all their efficiencies down. Like, don't matter if you're a health nut, don't matter if you don't like the way they do their meat or their fries or whatever. You know what you're getting, dude. It's 2 in the morning. You're tired. You're trying to get home, but you need a bite. You see that M, you know what you're gonna get for $6. You know what to expect. So it's all about, and you see this in many in all different verticals. You see this in tech. If you think about Apple or like any other successful hardware product, and you see this in consumer goods. You see this in food. You see this in beverages. Same thing. When something's consistent and you know what to expect, then you tend to build that brand loyalty and brand. It just grows. Like it's like
Yeah.
so right now we're on year 2.5. We're brand spanking new, so to speak, right? Even though we're at PCA, we're still a boutique company technically. So right now, I'm working on brand awareness and consistency. So my product has to be consistent. So as it pertains to the sizes, the ring gauges, and all that, I sit down with the master blender. I'm like, look, I make it very clear. Like if Miguel's gonna smoke it, a Corona or a Lancero, it needs to taste the same. It needs to be the same experience. It needs to be a great experience from light to when he puts it out. And so it came down to the fact that with these particular blends, the consistency was highest with the sizes that we chose. So that's going to be the Corona, Robusto, El Toro, and the Churchill. With those four, I'm sorry, the Bellicoso. With those four, we have more consistency. I really want to work on some cool sizes, different ring gauges, do some cool experiments there. And we're working on those, but I'm not going to make them like part of the core line. Those would be like one-off special limited releases that we do.
Sure.
Very
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, I love that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Mhm.
we are coming to the top of the hour. So I want to thank you for your time. But before we let you go, if someone can't find their cigar in their local brick and mortar, there's somewhere else they can go to find them.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you go on our website, dondoroteo.com, same thing on social, Don Doroteo Cigars on IG, Facebook, you name it, TikTok. If you go to our website, you can see all of our local shops all throughout the states. If you don't have one that's nearby, or if you're a little lazy, you can go ahead and click on the online portal, and we have a couple shops that deliver nationwide as well.
Very nice.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, we'll get to see you again before PCA, but that is coming
Yeah,
up pretty quick. So I know you guys got a lot of work to do before that happens.
absolutely,
But yeah,
brother.
thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure.
Absolutely. Anytime. Good to see you. All right, guys. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it for tonight. We'll be back on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after Thanksgiving.
After
So you all
Thanksgiving.
have a great
Have
Thanksgiving.
a happy
Have
Thanksgiving, guys.
a wonderful time, guys. We will talk to you all soon.